Hello ladies and gentlemen, it's TX141 here, bringing you another Ace in a Day gameplay for the arcade mode of War Thunder. Today, we're reviewing the Yak-9K. Historically, the Yak-9 series of Russian fighter aircraft was a development of the Yak-7 series. As reviewed previously in terms of the Yak-7B, annotation in the top right corner of your screen if you want to go see that video, the Yak-7 was a low to mid altitude fighter. And as such, the Yak-9 was a lightened airframe version of the Yak-7, also incorporating a number of other upgrades including improved armament in later modifications and improved engines, taking the Yak-9 from low to mid altitude fighter to higher altitude fighter in the very end with the final couple of iterations. The Yak-9K that we see here was an early iteration with a standard engine made for low to mid altitude, and with its 20mm prop mounted cannon switched out for a 45mm NS cannon. Now in reality the 45mm actually caused quite a few problems for the plane. The main one being that due to the severe recoil, if the cannon was fired at too low a speed, it would actually cause the plane to jerk about and cause the pilot to be jerked around in his seat, or her seat. And as a result the cannon could only be fired at high speeds and in very short bursts. Still, there was a number of reliability problems with the plane in general due to the extreme recoil forces. As a result, the Yak-9K never really saw much action and usually had to be accompanied with escort fighters due to its compromise in handling characteristics to mount the in order to mount the larger caliber cannon. In game, we're given a little bit more liberty with the Yak-9K, in the fact that while it doesn't suffer from the recoil issues that it did in reality, and also it doesn't suffer from the overall detriment to its handling characteristics, the Yak-9K does feel a little bit heavier in the nose, especially by comparison when you fly the Yak-9T. As a result, it does mean that the compromise in handling is replaced by a ridiculously large caliber gun, which makes short work of targets. However, it's getting the gun onto target and getting your shell to land perfectly on your opponent, which is the real problem here. Now, if I'm going to be honest, I'm not condemning the plane. I've noticed there are a number of players in the arcade mode who absolutely love this plane to bits and seem to be incredibly accurate with it against other fighters. And time to show off a little bit of accuracy by going after a Wellington. As you can see, we achieved a critical, taking out their tail control, and we don't need to worry about that Wellington anymore. And I may as well, I decide to carry on through the formation, going for another Wellington, simply because there are a large number of enemy bombers and I've got to try and clear them out before they take out our airfield or just our bases, because I want to win. So I fire an early shot trying to catch the Wellington. Now fire another shot. And I just spray. So as you can see, I'm already getting frustrated at the fact that the 45mm cannon really does need a lot of lead and you to be at quite a high velocity in order to hit your target. I then turn around to go after a Heinkel 111. My first shot missing, as does my second, my third, my fourth, but my fifth hits the target. However, the H-16's rear 20mm MGFF cannon does some damage to my engine, and as a result I'm now in a situation whereby I've got to make the most of my time up high, because I know that my engine performance is going to gradually fade away. Now, with regards to the setup I'm using 500m gun convergence with a 30-minute fuel load, and I've got all the upgrades for this plane minus the cover upgrade and also the new 45mm cannons. Now I decide to engage this Messerschmitt 109 head on, firing a wild 45mm shot in case I get lucky. However, as you notice, I don't, and I dive underneath the F4 for the simple reason I know the F4 can outperform me in the vertical very well, so I've got to turn this into a low altitude turn fight. As I loop over and the F comes up as well, I use the rudder to get behind them and start to take my shots. Still, I'm getting frustrated already. As you can see there, it took a number of shots to hit. As I said earlier, I'm not the best shot with the cannon in all honesty, but to be honest, I don't enjoy having a very large caliber cannon. 37mm is more than enough for me. Having a 45mm is overkill, to say the least. However, if I had to give you some advice on how to take out enemy fighters such as the Messerschmitt 109 in the Yak-9K, it'd be simple. Don't bother opening fire until you catch them mid-turn, for the simple reason they provide the largest possible target surface area for you to engage. And speaking of engagement, a Mitchell decides to come at me head on and hits my left wing. Fortunately, I'm able to carry on in the fight, and loop over. Yet in going up vertical I lose all my speed and the Mitchell gradually gets away. So I decide to practice a little bit of deflection shooting. Fortunately we managed to hit their tail. Now it's not a major critical in the fact I didn't knock out that Mitchell's tail control, but I've done enough in order to force them to start losing altitude. As you can see, the Mitchell is at a lopsided angle as they're going to turn. However, we'll see that Mitchell again very shortly at a much lower altitude, denoting the fact that their tail control has been weakened enough to force them to have to go down. And really that's my role flying up high in the Yak-9K. It's not to get a large number of kills or kill every bomber, it's to damage the bombers enough that they've got to go down to lower altitudes and become cannon fodder for my teammates. So climbing to attack this Wellington, I completely miss, just because I'm not expecting the low velocity of the 45mm cannon shells, and I'm almost in a stall with the Wellington having free rein to open up with the rear two 7.7mm machine guns. So I try to abuse the engine overdrive a little bit more. However, the Wellington's just got too much altitude on me, so I decide to turn underneath them, being fully aware that the rear machine gunner will have a clear shot at me if I stay there for too long. And I try to catch the Wellington as they fly in a straight line again. Fortunately I managed to take out the left wing in that burst of 45mm cannon ammunition, and as I've achieved my ace I loop over and notice that Mitchell we got that deflection shot on earlier has actually had to proceed to a lower altitude, and so I decide to dive down in case I need to finish them off. However, as you're going to see, my teammates do the job for me very shortly. So I'm about to open fire. I damage the left engine, setting it on fire, and I believe I also set the other engine on fire, and so I decide to leave the Mitchell alone. If my teammates want to take it out, that's fair enough to them, I don't mind. And as you can see, I get an assist. Have we did our job? Funnily enough, this game was quite fortunate in all honesty in the fact that the majority of the enemy team spawned in as mid to high altitude bombers. As you can see, we've still got that pesky IL-4 to deal with, and those are a nightmare to chase once they're up high. So as a result, this is not a typical game in the Yak-9K. I mean, more often than not, you'll see the occasional couple of medium bombers, usually Heinkel 111s and Mitchells, but you're not going to see the massive influx that we saw of, I think it was 3 B-25J Mitchells, 3 Wellingtons, this IL-4 and a Heinkel 111 H-16. You see there's that Mitchell over there. It doesn't happen that often in all honesty, and really this is what I go for. I spend a lot of time in the Yak-9K up at higher altitudes just because I really do have trouble getting the plane to work. I can fly the Yak-9T because the 37mm on that doesn't have too much of a spread, even when it's stock, and also because you can fire the shells quite quickly and they have a decent velocity. With the 45mm cannon, I find it very difficult to use and get a decent shot off. However, each to their own, as I always say, and so what works for me may not work for you, and vice versa. However, this was an enjoyable game nonetheless, and I thought it did highlight the significant amount of weight the Yak-9K can perform in the interceptor role. And as you can see, we got that Messerschmitt Y09F in the end, after applying a little bit of rudder and forcing them into a vertical loop over at a medium altitude of 5,000 meters, 4,000 to 5,000 meters approximately. So it's not as though we just spent the entire game going bomber hunting. We've also had to take out one defender. Now the IL-4 has just dropped a load of bombs and taken out a couple of our fellow ground units. So I'm gradually entering a small climb now, making sure not to overdo it, and the IL-4 decides to come right at me. So I go for the spray and hit the right wing and take it completely off. However, as you can see again, I'm not really going for appropriately well-aimed shots. I'm going for a spray and hoping that one of my shells is going to clip that bomber. And as I turn around to engage that B-25 Mitchell, I believe the game comes to an end, unfortunately. I was getting all excited to make 7 kills. Still, I managed to get 6 kills with 1 fighter kill in that. And so now it's time to review the stats. So as we can see, it wasn't too bad a game in all honesty, earning just shy of 16,000 silver lions and just shy of 1,000 research points as I progressed towards the I-185. Also almost got the new 45mm cannon upgrade done for the Yak-9K, however it's not a plane I play that often in all honesty. so I doubt I'll be getting that upgrade anytime soon. With 6 kills, 1 assist, and really we should class it as 7 because we forced that Mitch all the way down and took out at least the left engine, if not the right one as well, or the right wing. It just goes to show that the Yak-9K can be one of those nasty planes with a massive bark. Although to be honest, pound for pound I'd say the Yak-9T is the more preferable plane, because you don't have as much weight in the nose, you have a little bit more maneuverability, and also you're dealing with a plane that's got a higher shell velocity in its 37mm cannon compared to that of the 45mm here. Still, each to their own. As you can see, we came top of the scoreboard doing our role as bomber interceptor. And I've been TX141. If you enjoyed the video, why not leave a like, subscribe, or leave a comment. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, take care and have fun in the skies as always.